If you come to New York, it's eventually everyone's brass ring is being in a Broadway show.
There are thousands and thousands of equally talented performers, and that's their dream too.
Within the theatrical community of the United States, within the smaller theatrical community of New York, the even smaller theatrical community of Broadway, there are maybe 500, 600 people who work on Broadway in the course of a year, less than that probably.
When I hear people moving here and basically getting a Broadway show, the rarity of that happening to anyone is a lotto ticket.
I'd always wanted to be an actor, but honestly, when I got to the end of high school, I kind of chickened out. I just didn't think that it was the smart thing to go to college for. Instead, when I got to college, I went for music education because I knew that I wanted to do something in my life that had to do with music. When I graduated, I got a job as a teacher. I taught elementary music for a year in Topeka, Kansas. I am convinced that I would still, very happily, I would be a high school music teacher to this day, because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. My girlfriend at the time, she had gone to school for musical theater, and she was auditioning for summer stock. And she said, hey, why don't you come and audition for summer stock with me? And, you know, you have the summer off, you might as well. And so I did. I did one summer stock gig, and it was such hard work. We put up 8 shows in 12 weeks. But from that one summer stock gig, I made a couple connections. I got a job doing Anything Goes at a theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That was a great gig, though, because we were close enough to New York to drive in to audition for shows. I decided I was going to go one of these Mondays on our day off and see if I could go to a New York City audition. When I went to that audition, I got there at 6:30 in the morning, and I still wasn't the first person there. There were 200 union guys who had signed up. So all of them get to go first. And then if there's time at the end of the day, then they'll see a few non-union guys. And then at 4:30, the monitor came out and he said, okay, we've got time for a few non-equity guys. So I went into the audition and I sang my 8 bars. The music director was at the audition. He said, hold on. Who are you? And why have we never seen you audition in New York? And I said, I'm actually a music teacher from Kansas. This is my first New York City audition. And he said, you're pulling my leg, aren't you? And I said, no, really, this is it. When they called with the callback, and I walked in the room, it's the whole team of Les Mis, all the original conceivers, directors, the composers, they're all there sitting behind a table. I was overwhelmed by it all, and I blew the audition. But before I left the room, the music director said, hold on. Why don't you sing a different song? So I sang a different song, and that went much better. The director, he said, come back at 3 o'clock. I frantically taught myself 30 pages of material, and I went back in. The associate director came over and he started coaching me. And as I got further into it and I started giving more of myself, he really started getting in my face and like yelling at me and telling me that he needed more. And it was one of those moments in your life when you make a decision to give more than you think you have the ability to give. A few days later, I got a call from the casting director, and she said, I wanted to be the first person to let you know the Les Mis team loved you at your audition, and they want you to be a part of the Broadway revival this fall. And I get a little emotional when sorry, just like thinking about it brings back all those, just that memory, that that moment when everything that you've worked for your whole life kind of comes into place. And it was a really overwhelming moment. It was an important moment.
I think for many actors, a precious moment is going to be that Broadway debut.
People make their Broadway debut every day. The audience members have no idea when it's happening, that this momentous event is happening on stage.
My Broadway debut was Tommy, The Who's Tommy. And it was fascinating to walk out there and see the audience for the first time. Just that energy that they were giving us. It was overwhelming.
I was literally trembling with fear and excitement.
You'll never get that again. You'll never get that Broadway debut again, because that's the first time. that's it.
When I got to Broadway, I replaced in a very successful play in Butterfly. And I didn't realize that I only would have 2 weeks to rehearse before they put me on in the show. Because in my mind it was like, oh, we're gonna have, 4 weeks of rehearsal and then it'll be tech, and like the way that you would do it in school. And I was like, no, you learn your scenes, you practice with an understudy or a stage manager, and then you are put into the show. It's literally like being shot out of a cannon. It was literally one of those things where I think I went in and met B.D. Wong like 10 minutes before the curtain, and then we did the show. It was so scary. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I just thought, well, this is it. You want to be a professional actress. But I was so overwhelmed because I'd finished a Broadway show. I'd done a Broadway show terribly. I'm sure I was terrible, but it was, I did it. When my parents came to see me in my first Broadway show, they were so proud, and it was so wonderful to take pictures outside the theater with your name on the poster, in Japan, they have this thing called a daruma, which is like a weird little misshapen wooden doll. And it does not have the eyes painted in. And so you paint one eye in, and then you make a wish. And when the wish comes true, then you paint the other eye in. When I got on Broadway, my dad painted the other eye in. And I hadn't realized that that was something that had happened, and I was so touched by that. And it was great for them to be able to say, well, she's in a Broadway show. She can't be as terrible as all that. I'm not saying that I think that people's self-worth should be predicated on if they're in a Broadway show. You have to get your validation from a bigger place than that. But I'm saying that that was at least something people could point to and say, well, she's at least done that, and she made it.